Hey guys, tonight we're exploring a story that everyone in history should know. The story is the ancient Rome invention that saved humanity. You get comfortable, take a moment, like the video, and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The ancient Rome invention that saved humanity. Imagine you are standing on a quiet hill as the first light of morning spreads across the Italian countryside. The air is cool, carrying the gentle scent of damp earth mixed with wild herbs growing among scattered stones. A small breeze brushes across the grass, and somewhere in the distance a bird begins its morning song. Before you, a narrow road stretches toward the horizon, disappearing into soft layers of mist. It is peaceful here, almost silent, and yet beneath your feet lies the beginning of one of humanity's greatest stories. Tonight we are not following the rise of a famous emperor or the march of a victorious army. Instead, we are searching for something much quieter. It is something made of stone, patience, careful thought, and the determination of ordinary people. It did not wear a crown, and it did not command legions. Yet without it, the world we know today would look very different. Many people believe the greatest achievements of ancient Rome were its armies or its vast empire. Those certainly changed history, but they did not save humanity. Empires eventually fade, borders shift, palaces crumble. What truly lasts are ideas that continue helping people long after the names of kings have been forgotten. As you walk slowly along the ancient road, imagine countless travelers who once made this same journey. Merchants guide wagons filled with olive oil and pottery. Farmers lead donkeys carrying baskets of grain. Soldiers return home after years away. Children laugh as they race one another beside the road. Elderly couples rest beneath the shade of tall pine trees before continuing their journey. Each person depends on something so ordinary that they rarely stop to think about it. Clean water, safe roads, strong buildings, reliable bridges, a way to carry knowledge from one generation to another. These simple things quietly protect human life every single day. Ancient Rome did not invent every one of them. Many ideas were borrowed from earlier civilizations, such as the Egyptians, Greeks, and Etruscans. The Romans were honest builders in one important way. If they discovered a useful idea, they rarely ignored it. Instead, they studied it carefully, improved it, and then spread it across an enormous part of the known world. That willingness to improve rather than simply invent became one of Rome's greatest strengths. Picture yourself entering a small Roman town just after sunrise. The marketplace is beginning to wake. Bakers have already been working for hours. Warm bread fills the streets with a comforting smell. A blacksmith's hammer rings softly in the distance. Shopkeepers sweep dust from their doorways while neighbors exchange friendly greetings. Nothing feels hurried. Life follows familiar rhythms. Yet beneath this peaceful scene lies an invisible network of engineering that keeps everything alive. Fresh water arrives every day. Wastewater leaves the town. Roads connect villages with distant cities. Stone bridges cross rivers that once divided communities. These systems work so quietly that many people hardly notice them. Even today, some of these ancient structures continue doing the jobs they were built to perform nearly 2,000 years ago. Imagine the patience required to build something meant not just for yourself, but for grandchildren you would never meet. Roman engineers often spent years surveying land before construction even began. They carried simple tools by modern standards, yet their measurements were remarkably accurate. They observed hills, valleys, rivers, and natural springs. They understood that water preferred gentle slopes and that gravity could become an invisible helper instead of an enemy. This simple understanding would eventually change millions of lives. Water had always been precious. Long before Rome became powerful, every civilization searched for dependable sources of fresh water. Rivers provided life but also danger. Floods destroyed homes. Stagnant pools carried disease. Wells sometimes dried during long summers. Finding clean water was only the beginning. Transporting it safely to growing cities was the greater challenge. As Rome expanded, its population increased beyond what nearby wells could provide. Hundreds of thousands of people needed fresh drinking water every single day. Without a reliable supply, disease would spread, food production would suffer, and daily life would become increasingly difficult. The Romans faced this challenge with remarkable determination. Instead of accepting limits, they asked a quiet question. What if the water could come to the people? Today the answer seems obvious. 2,000 years ago, it required extraordinary imagination. Engineers searched mountains many miles away for clear natural springs. Once they found them, they carefully designed channels that followed the natural shape of the land. The slope had to remain almost perfectly steady. Too steep and the water would rush dangerously fast. Too flat and it would stop flowing altogether. Sometimes the channels disappeared underground. Sometimes they crossed valleys on graceful rows of stone arches. These magnificent structures are known today as aqueducts. When people think of Roman engineering, the towering arches often become the symbol of their achievement. Yet the arches themselves were only a small part of the system. Most aqueducts actually traveled beneath the ground, protected from weather, sunlight, and accidental damage. This hidden design also helped keep the water cleaner. Imagine walking across gentle farmland without realizing that fresh mountain water is quietly flowing beneath your feet, beginning a journey that may last dozens of miles before reaching a distant city. There is something deeply calming about that image. Water moving patiently, always forward, always serving, never asking for recognition. When the water finally reached Rome, it entered reservoirs before traveling into fountains, baths, workshops, and sometimes private homes. Public fountains became gathering places where neighbors collected water while sharing stories about family, business, or local news. Children filled clay jars, Animals drank from carved stone basins. Travelers rested before continuing their journey. Life gathered wherever clean water appeared. Many historians believe this reliable access to fresh water helped improve public health, supported larger populations, and allowed cities to function more effectively than many earlier urban centers. The Romans did not fully understand bacteria or viruses. Those discoveries would come much later, yet they understood something through experience. Fresh flowing water was healthier than stagnant water. Simple observation guided practical decisions. Sometimes wisdom begins not in complicated theories, but in careful attention to everyday life. As the morning slowly arrives, picture workers inspecting an aqueduct. They move slowly along narrow maintenance paths, listening for unusual sounds and checking for cracks caused by shifting earth or winter frost. Maintenance was as important as construction. The Romans knew that even the strongest structure required care. Perhaps that is another quiet lesson they left behind. Building something remarkable is only the first step. Preserving it is equally important. Centuries passed. Emperors came and went. Wars reshaped the empire. Political leaders argued. Families celebrated births and mourned losses. Through all these changing moments, the water continued flowing. Generation after generation depended upon a system created by people whose names were often forgotten. History sometimes remembers emperors more easily than engineers. Yet the engineer who quietly solved a problem may improve more lives than the ruler who won another battle. Imagine sitting beside one of Rome's public fountains during a warm afternoon. Sunlight dances across the surface of the water. Nearby merchants discuss prices for grain arriving from distant provinces. Children splash their hands while mothers gently remind them not to waste water. A tired traveler washes dust from his face after many days on the road. Nobody pauses to admire the engineering. They simply enjoy the benefits. Perhaps that is the greatest compliment any invention can receive. It becomes so dependable that people stop thinking about it. Even today, we rarely consider the remarkable systems that deliver clean water into our homes. We turn a handle or press a button expecting fresh water to appear instantly. That quiet expectation has deep historical roots. Many of them reach back to ancient Rome, not because Rome invented water itself, not because Rome discovered gravity, but because Roman engineers demonstrated that careful planning, long-term thinking, and public investment could protect countless lives. This idea would survive even after the empire itself declined. Stone buildings would fall. Roads would require repair. Languages would change. Kingdoms would rise where Roman provinces once stood. Yet many people continued studying Roman engineering, copying surviving designs, and learning from ancient builders whose careful work had endured the passing centuries. Knowledge became the true invention. An invention carried not in marble or brick, but in human memory. And that memory would help shape civilizations far beyond the borders of ancient Rome. As the gentle breeze moves once more across the quiet countryside, you continue walking along the ancient road. Somewhere ahead beyond the rolling hills, clear spring water is beginning another patient journey toward a distant city. It has been flowing for centuries, and our own journey through this remarkable story has only just begun. Imagine that the sun has climbed a little higher into the sky, so the morning is still gentle and cool. The quiet road continues ahead, lined with cypress trees that sway softly in the breeze. Birds drift overhead while the distant sounds of a waking town blend into a calm and steady rhythm. You continue your peaceful walk, leaving behind the busy marketplace and following a narrow path toward the hills where fresh water begins its long journey. Somewhere beyond these rolling fields, hidden among limestone cliffs and green valleys, clear springs emerge from the earth. The water is cold, pure, and constant. Long before any engineer arrived with measuring rods and tools, these springs quietly flowed day after day, season after season, asking for nothing. The Romans looked upon these natural gifts with great respect. Rather than forcing nature to obey them, they often chose to work alongside it. This simple idea became one of the greatest strengths of Roman engineering. They understood that nature already possessed a remarkable power. Their task was not to overpower it, but to guide it carefully. Imagine kneeling beside one of these mountain springs. The water is so clear that every pebble beneath the surface can be seen. Tiny ripples catch the morning light, creating gentle patterns that dance across the stones. The air feels cooler here, and the sound of flowing water fills the silence with a peaceful melody. For Roman engineers, this was where every aqueduct truly began. Contrary to what many people imagine, an aqueduct did not simply start with impressive stone arches stretching across the landscape. Those famous arches were only built where absolutely necessary. Most of the journey happened quietly beneath the ground. This often surprises modern visitors. When we picture Roman aqueducts, we usually imagine graceful rows of arches standing proudly against the sky. They are beautiful, and many have survived for nearly 2,000 years. Yet almost all of an aqueduct's path remained hidden from sight. Underground channels protected the water from sunlight, reduced evaporation during hot summers, and helped keep leaves, animals, and dust from entering the supply. It was a practical solution rather than a dramatic one. That practical spirit appeared again and again throughout Roman history. Picture yourself walking beside a group of surveyors preparing a new aqueduct. Their equipment is simple compared with modern instruments, yet they move with quiet confidence. One man carefully places a wooden measuring frame upon the ground. Another studies the landscape ahead. Others mark the route using ropes and small wooden stakes. They are searching for something almost invisible. A perfect slope. Not steep, not flat. Only a gentle downward path that allows gravity to carry the water naturally. Gravity never becomes tired. It asks for no payment. It requires no fuel. It simply works. The Romans understood this remarkable gift long before electricity or mechanical pumps existed. By carefully measuring the land, they could allow gravity to move millions of liters of water every single day without machines. Even today, Many modern water systems still depend upon this same natural principle. It is one of those quiet ideas that continues serving humanity century after century. Imagine following the path of a single drop of water. It begins deep within a mountain spring after rainwater has slowly filtered through layers of rock for many years. Emerging into daylight, it enters a carefully built stone channel. From there, it begins an extraordinary journey that may stretch for 50, 60, or even more than 100 kilometers. The drop never rushes, it never stops. It simply follows the gentle slope prepared for it. Hour after hour, day after day, year after year. Eventually, that single drop arrives in a distant city where it becomes part of someone's morning drink, fills a fountain, washes vegetables in a market, or refreshes a tired traveler. The journey is invisible to most people, yet countless lives depend upon it. Roman engineers constantly inspected these channels. Small access points allowed workers to enter the underground passages whenever repairs became necessary. Mineral deposits slowly built up along the walls, especially where the water contained dissolved limestone. These deposits had to be removed so the channels remained open. Maintenance was never an afterthought. The Romans believed that caring for public works was part of caring for the people themselves. Imagine one of these workers carrying a small oil lamp through the cool darkness inside an underground aqueduct. The air is damp. Tiny drops of water echo softly against the stone walls. His footsteps move carefully through the narrow passage as he checks for cracks or blockages. His work receives little attention. Few people know his name, yet thousands of families rely upon his careful inspection. History often celebrates those who build great monuments. It speaks less often about those who quietly preserve them. Perhaps both deserve equal gratitude. As Rome continued to grow, more aqueducts were constructed. The city eventually received water from several different systems, each bringing fresh supplies from separate springs and valleys. This diversity helped increase reliability. If one channel required repairs, others could continue delivering water. It was thoughtful planning rather than simple ambition. The Romans rarely built only for today. Many of their projects were designed with future generations in mind. Imagine standing outside Rome nearly 2,000 years ago as fresh water approaches the city. Before entering neighborhoods and public spaces, it passes into large storage reservoirs. From there, engineers carefully divide the flow. Some water travels toward public fountains. Some fills enormous bathing complexes. Some reaches workshops where craftsmen dye cloth or shape metal. Some supplies gardens and homes. Nothing is entirely random. Everything follows a carefully considered plan. Water was precious, even when abundant. Public fountains became one of the most familiar sights in Roman towns. Unlike today, most ordinary families did not have running water inside their homes. Instead, they walked to nearby fountains carrying clay jars or wooden buckets. Picture yourself joining them. Children chatter quietly while waiting their turn. Neighbors exchange news about recent harvests. An elderly man smiles as he fills a worn pottery jug that has served his family for decades. The fountain is more than a place to collect water. It is a place where community quietly grows. People meet. Stories are shared. Friendships deepen. Simple daily routines become part of the fabric of society. Fresh water nourishes more than the body. It often nourishes relationships as well. Roman baths also depended upon this remarkable network. Today, people sometimes imagine these baths as places of luxury reserved only for the wealthy. In reality, many public baths welcomed ordinary citizens for a modest fee, while some were supported by wealthy patrons or local governments. Bathing was about cleanliness. It was also about relaxation, conversation, exercise, learning. Many bath complexes included gardens, libraries, and walking areas where visitors could spend several peaceful hours. Clean water quietly supported all of these experiences. The Romans did not possess modern medical knowledge. They could not identify microscopic organisms that spread disease. Nevertheless, they recognized that clean flowing water generally produced healthier living conditions than polluted or stagnant supplies. Observation became their teacher. Generation after generation, people noticed which places encouraged health and which did not. Experience gradually became wisdom. Imagine a physician walking through Rome during the 1st century. He cannot prescribe antibiotics. He knows nothing about viruses. Yet he advises patients to seek fresh air, clean water, nutritious food, and moderate exercise whenever possible. Some treatments available at the time would later prove ineffective. Others, surprisingly, reflected sound practical judgment. History is rarely divided into complete success or complete failure. Instead, knowledge grows slowly. Each generation contributes another small piece. The Romans added many important pieces to humanity's understanding of healthy cities. As afternoon sunlight begins warming the stone streets, imagine the steady sound of fountains continuing throughout the city. Water flows without interruption. Children hardly notice it. Adults take it for granted. Travelers admire it. No one stops to consider the remarkable journey that each drop has completed. Perhaps that is the greatest achievement of all. The system works so naturally that it becomes almost invisible. The highest form of engineering is often the one people forget is there. Centuries later, when parts of the Western Roman Empire declined, many aqueducts fell into neglect. Wars damaged some. Others simply lacked the maintenance required to remain effective. Gradually, cities that had once enjoyed abundant fresh water faced new challenges. People immediately noticed the difference. Daily life became more difficult. Cleanliness declined in many places. Communities often became smaller as dependable water supplies disappeared. It was a quiet reminder that civilization depends upon countless invisible systems working together. Roads, bridges, water, knowledge, maintenance. Remove any one of them and life slowly becomes harder. Yet the Roman achievement did not disappear completely. Many aqueducts survived. Some continued carrying water for centuries. Others inspired engineers during the Renaissance and beyond.
Even modern hydraulic engineering still reflects principles that Roman builders understood through patient observation and remarkable skill. Their greatest invention may not have been the aqueduct itself. It may have been the belief that public infrastructure could improve life for everyone.
Not only for emperors, not only for wealthy families, but for ordinary people filling a simple clay jar at the neighborhood fountain. That quiet philosophy continues shaping the modern world. Every time clean water arrives safely in a city, whether through ancient stone channels or modern pipelines, it carries with it a distant echo of those careful Roman engineers who first asked a simple question: how can we help water serve humanity? As the afternoon breeze cools once again, you leave the gentle sound of flowing fountains behind and continue along the ancient road. Ahead lies another remarkable discovery, one that allowed Roman buildings, harbors, bridges, and monuments to survive storms, earthquakes, and the passing of centuries. The story of water is only one chapter.
The story of stone is waiting just beyond the next quiet hill. Imagine that the afternoon has softened into a calm golden light. The warmth of the sun rests gently upon the hills, and long shadows stretch across the ancient countryside. The breeze carries the scent of pine trees, dry grass, and distant olive groves. Somewhere nearby, a shepherd quietly guides a small flock of sheep along a familiar path, their bells creating a slow and peaceful rhythm. You continue your journey, leaving the flowing aqueduct behind. Ahead, a new sound begins to rise. It is not loud or hurried. It is the steady tap of stone against stone, the scrape of wooden tools, and the quiet voices of craftsmen who have spent years perfecting their skills. You find yourself approaching a Roman building site. There are no towering cranes or roaring engines. Instead, men and women work with patient hands, lifting baskets of sand, shaping wooden frames, and carefully placing heavy stones. Every movement seems measured, as though they understand that haste has little place in building something meant to last for generations. The Romans admired beauty, but they respected durability even more. Many ancient civilizations built magnificent monuments from enormous blocks of carefully carved stone. The Egyptians raised pyramids that still stand today. Greek builders created elegant temples whose graceful columns continue to inspire architects around the world. The Romans learned from both. Then they quietly asked another question: how can we build faster? How can we build stronger? How can we create structures that ordinary people can use every day, not only monuments for kings or temples for the gods? The answer slowly emerged through careful observation, practical experience, and countless years of experimentation. It was Roman concrete. Today, concrete is one of the most common building materials on Earth. Roads, bridges, tunnels, dams, apartment buildings, hospitals, schools, and airports all depend upon it. We pass it every day without giving it much thought. Yet nearly 2,000 years ago, the Romans discovered a remarkable mixture that allowed them to reshape the ancient world. Picture yourself watching a group of workers preparing the ingredients. One carries lime that has been carefully heated in large kilns. Another brings sand. Others arrive with broken pieces of stone. Most importantly, baskets filled with fine gray volcanic ash are poured into the growing mixture. This ash came from regions near volcanic landscapes, especially around the Bay of Naples. The Romans called it Pozzolana, after the town of Puteoli, where high-quality volcanic ash could be found. At first glance, it appears almost ordinary. Soft, powdery, easy to overlook. Yet within this humble material lay one of history's greatest engineering discoveries. When volcanic ash mixed with lime and water, something remarkable happened. A strong chemical reaction slowly created a material that hardened into durable, stone-like concrete. Even more surprising, this concrete often continued becoming stronger over time. The Romans did not understand chemistry in the modern scientific sense. They had no microscopes capable of examining tiny crystals growing inside the mixture. What they possessed instead was careful observation. They noticed which recipes lasted. They remembered which mixtures failed. Generation after generation, builders refined their techniques. Knowledge passed quietly from experienced craftsmen to eager apprentices. Imagine an older builder standing beside a young apprentice. He does not carry a written instruction manual. Instead, he teaches through practice. He watches the texture of the mixture. He feels its weight. He judges its moisture. The apprentice copies every movement carefully, knowing that small mistakes today could weaken a building that hundreds of families might one day depend upon. In this way, practical knowledge traveled across generations, not through speeches, not through grand ceremonies, but through patient hands working side by side. Roman concrete offered something earlier builders rarely enjoyed: freedom. Stone blocks required enormous effort to cut, transport, and position precisely. Concrete could be poured into wooden molds while still soft. Once hardened, it formed walls, arches, domes, foundations, and vaults that would have been difficult or impossible using carved stone alone. This changed architecture forever. Imagine walking into a growing Roman city. New warehouses appear near busy ports. Markets expand. Bathhouses welcome visitors. Aqueducts cross distant valleys. Bridges connect opposite riverbanks. Harbors extend farther into the sea. Many of these projects become possible because Roman concrete allows engineers to think differently. Instead of asking whether something can be carved from stone, they begin asking whether it can be shaped while still liquid. That small change in thinking opens countless new possibilities. Perhaps one of the finest examples of Roman concrete still stands today. Picture yourself entering a magnificent circular building beneath a clear blue sky. Sunlight streams through a large opening high above. The air feels cool despite the warmth outside. Every sound echoes gently beneath an enormous dome. This is the Pantheon. Nearly 2,000 years have passed since it was completed during the reign of Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century AD.
Its great concrete dome remains the largest unreinforced concrete dome ever constructed. Even modern engineers continue studying how Roman builders achieved such balance and strength. The dome grows gradually thinner toward its highest point. Heavier materials support the lower sections. Lighter materials reduce weight near the top. Nothing appears accidental. Everything serves a purpose. Imagine standing silently beneath that dome. Above you,
the circular opening known as the oculus allows sunlight to move slowly across the interior as the hours pass. On rainy days, gentle drops of water fall through the opening onto carefully designed drains in the floor. The building welcomes nature instead of resisting it completely. Light, rain, fresh air, they all become part of the architecture. Roman engineers understood something important. Strength does not always come from resisting every force. Sometimes it comes from working with those forces instead. This same philosophy appeared in another remarkable place: the sea. Most ancient builders struggled whenever construction met salt water. Ordinary building materials weakened. Foundations shifted. Harbors demanded constant repair. The Romans discovered that their volcanic concrete behaved differently. When submerged in seawater, chemical reactions continued inside the material. Over long periods, new minerals formed within tiny cracks, helping strengthen parts of the concrete rather than destroying them. Modern scientists have spent years studying these remarkable reactions. The discovery reminds us that ancient builders often understood nature through long experience, even when they lacked modern scientific explanations. Imagine standing beside a Roman harbor shortly after sunrise. Fishing boats gently rise and fall with the tide. Merchants prepare cargo for distant provinces. Children watch seabirds circle above the waves. The great concrete harbor quietly protects everyone from rough waters. No one gathers to praise the material beneath their feet. Like the aqueduct, it simply performs its duty. Day after day, year after year, century after century. There is something comforting about such reliability. As afternoon slowly drifts toward evening, workers begin cleaning their tools. Wooden molds are removed from newly hardened walls. Builders inspect fresh surfaces with careful eyes. They know that true strength cannot be judged immediately. Time itself becomes the final test. Many buildings appear impressive during their first few years. Only a few continue serving communities after hundreds of winters. Roman builders accepted this challenge. They expected their work to outlive them. Imagine one elderly craftsman watching younger workers finish a bridge. He smiles quietly. He understands that he may never see every traveler who crosses it. Children not yet born will someday walk there. Merchants from distant lands will depend upon it. Families will return home safely because the bridge remains strong. His reward is not fame. It is usefulness. Perhaps that is one reason Roman engineering continues inspiring people today. Its greatest achievements were rarely built only to impress. They were built to serve. Of course,
Roman concrete was not perfect. Some buildings collapsed. Recipes varied from one region to another. Not every structure survived earthquakes, floods, or centuries of neglect. History is never a story of flawless success. Yet the overall achievement remains extraordinary. Many Roman concrete structures have endured longer than countless modern buildings. This has encouraged scientists, architects, and engineers to study ancient techniques with fresh curiosity. Not because we wish to return entirely to the past, but because the past still has lessons to offer. Sometimes progress means remembering forgotten wisdom. As the golden light of evening begins fading into softer colors, you continue walking beyond the busy construction site. Behind you stand arches, walls, and bridges that seem almost timeless. Ahead lies another quiet marvel, one hidden beneath the streets rather than rising above them. It is a place few visitors ever thought about. Yet without it, the clean water flowing into Roman cities would have quickly become dangerous. To understand how Rome protected public health, we must now follow the path of water after it had finished its work. The story leads downward, beneath the stones of the city, into one of the ancient world's most remarkable systems of sanitation. And there, beneath the quiet streets, another chapter in the story of humanity patiently waits. Evening settles gently over the city. The warm light of the afternoon slowly gives way to softer shades of amber and violet. Long shadows stretch across the stone streets, and the busy sounds of the marketplace begin to fade. Shopkeepers close wooden shutters one by one. Bakers place their last loaves upon cooling racks, filling the air with the comforting aroma of fresh bread. Somewhere nearby, a musician quietly plays a simple melody on a reed flute, its gentle notes drifting through the narrow streets. You continue your peaceful walk. The great buildings of Rome stand proudly around you, their stone walls glowing in the fading sunlight. Children return home with their families. Merchants count the day's earnings. Travelers search for an inn where they can rest before tomorrow's journey. At first glance, everything appears calm and orderly. Yet beneath your feet, hidden entirely from view, another city quietly carries out its work. It is a city of tunnels, stone channels, flowing water, gentle echoes, a place where few Romans spent much time, but one upon which nearly every citizen depended. To understand one of ancient Rome's greatest contributions to humanity, we must leave the bright streets behind and descend into the cool darkness below. Imagine a narrow stone staircase leading underground. The air becomes cooler with each careful step. The cheerful sounds of the city above grow softer until they are replaced by the steady murmur of moving water. Oil lamps cast a warm golden glow across damp stone walls that have stood here for centuries. You find yourself inside one of Rome's great drainage tunnels. The Romans called their most famous sewer the Cloaca Maxima, meaning the greatest sewer. Its origins reach back to the early days of Rome, many centuries before the empire reached its greatest size.
Historians believe the construction began during the Roman kingdom, probably in the 6th century BC, when the growing settlement needed a better way to drain the marshy land between its hills. Long before it became a sewer, it was first a drainage project. This is an important detail. The low-lying valleys between Rome's famous 7 hills were once wet, muddy places where standing water often collected after heavy rain. Such marshes were uncomfortable places to build homes or markets. They also encouraged insects and unpleasant odors. The Romans understood that if they wished to build a thriving city, the land itself had to be prepared. So they dug channels. They guided water away. They slowly transformed marshland into dry ground where people could safely gather. One of those newly reclaimed spaces would eventually become the Roman Forum, the political and social heart of the city. Imagine standing in that valley before any buildings existed. The ground is soft beneath your feet. Pools of water reflect the gray morning sky. Reeds sway gently in the breeze, and frogs call quietly from hidden pools. Now imagine returning generations later. Stone temples stand proudly. Merchants fill busy markets. Citizens discuss politics. Children run through crowded streets. The transformation seems almost miraculous. Yet it began with something as simple as moving unwanted water. The Romans understood a lesson that still guides engineers today. Healthy cities begin with healthy infrastructure. People often admire grand temples or triumphal arches because they are beautiful and easy to see. Far fewer visitors think about drains, sewers, water channels. Yet without these hidden systems, daily life quickly becomes much more difficult. Picture yourself walking through Rome after a heavy rainstorm. Clouds have finally drifted away, leaving the streets washed clean. Rainwater flows gently toward carefully designed drains cut into the stone roads. Instead of collecting in deep, muddy pools, much of it disappears into underground channels. The streets dry more quickly. Travel becomes easier. Markets reopen. Life returns to its familiar rhythm. Good drainage may not seem exciting, but it quietly protects every part of the city. As Rome continued to grow, its underground drainage system expanded as well. Additional channels connected neighborhoods. Wastewater from baths, fountains, and public spaces eventually entered the larger network before flowing toward the Tiber River. It is important to understand that Roman sanitation was not identical to modern sewer systems. Modern cities use advanced treatment plants that remove harmful pollutants before releasing water back into rivers or oceans. The Romans did not possess such technology. Their system focused primarily on drainage and the movement of waste away from crowded urban areas. Even so, keeping waste from accumulating in the streets represented a significant improvement for many ancient cities. Flowing water carried much of it away. Fresh water continuously entered the city through aqueducts. Used water gradually left through drainage channels. Movement became the key. Still water often became unhealthy. Moving water reduced many problems. Though the Romans did not understand microorganisms, experience taught them valuable practical lessons. Imagine a city after many days without proper drainage. Rainwater collects in low places. Mud grows thick. Refuse remains where it falls. The air becomes heavy. Travel slows. Illness may spread more easily. Now imagine that same city with well-planned drains and a steady flow of water. Conditions improve. Streets become easier to cross. Markets remain cleaner. Daily routines become more pleasant. Sometimes civilization advances not through dramatic discoveries, but through thousands of small improvements that quietly work together. As you continue walking through the underground passage, notice the remarkable craftsmanship surrounding you. The tunnel walls are built from carefully fitted stone blocks. Some sections form graceful arches overhead. The design distributes weight efficiently, allowing these tunnels to survive for centuries beneath busy streets. Even above you, wagons loaded with grain rumble across the roads. People gather in busy forums. Buildings rise several stories high, yet the tunnels continue supporting everything above without complaint. There is something quietly noble about structures that perform essential work while remaining almost completely unseen. Imagine the workers who entered these tunnels long ago. Their tasks were difficult. They inspected walls after storms. They removed blockages. They repaired damaged sections. Few people applauded their efforts. Most citizens never learned their names. Yet every successful repair protected thousands of neighbors. History often remembers emperors. It also owes gratitude to ordinary workers carrying simple tools into dark places. As night slowly approaches, lamps begin glowing in windows above. You can no longer see the sky from inside the tunnel, but you imagine the first stars appearing over Rome. Above ground, families gather for their evening meal. Bread, olives, cheese, vegetable stew. Perhaps a little fish if fortune has been kind. Children tell stories about their day. Parents plan tomorrow's work. They rarely think about the hidden tunnels beneath their homes. That is precisely the point. The best public infrastructure becomes almost invisible. When everything works properly, life simply feels normal. Many Roman cities beyond Italy adopted similar ideas. Across Europe, North Africa, and parts of the Middle East, engineers adapted Roman methods to local landscapes. Not every settlement possessed enormous sewers like Rome itself. Smaller towns often built simpler drainage systems suited to their own needs. The principle remained the same. Water should keep moving. Cleanliness benefits everyone. Public works serve the whole community. These ideas traveled farther than Roman armies ever could. Centuries after the Western Roman Empire declined, many ancient drainage systems fell into neglect. Without regular maintenance, tunnels collapsed. Sediment accumulated. Channels became blocked. Communities gradually lost infrastructure the previous generations had taken for granted. The consequences were often noticeable. Cities became less healthy. Roads deteriorated more quickly. Flooding became more common in certain places. The quiet systems that had once protected daily life revealed their true importance only after they disappeared. There is a gentle lesson hidden within that history. We often notice essential things only when they are gone. Fresh water, strong bridges, safe roads, clean streets, reliable drainage.
Each works quietly in the background, allowing ordinary life to unfold peacefully. The Romans did not invent the idea of sanitation from nothing. Earlier civilizations had built drains and water systems of their own. What Rome accomplished was something different. They expanded these ideas across an enormous network of cities, standardized many engineering practices, and demonstrated that public infrastructure could support large urban populations for centuries when properly maintained. Their achievement was not a single invention. It was a way of thinking, a belief that careful planning could improve everyday life. As you slowly climb the stone steps back toward the surface, cool night air greets you once again. The moon now hangs above the rooftops, casting silver light across quiet streets. Fountains continue flowing. The roads remain firm beneath your feet. The hidden tunnels continue carrying water away into the darkness. Above and below, every part of the city works together. It is a quiet harmony built not only with stone, but with patience, responsibility, and an understanding that even the unseen parts of civilization matter deeply. Your peaceful walk continues beneath a sky filled with stars. Ahead lies another story, not beneath the streets this time, but upon them. Soon we will follow the remarkable network of Roman roads that connected distant villages, thriving cities, mountain passes, forests, and coastlines, carrying not only soldiers and merchants, but also ideas, languages, cultures, and knowledge that would shape the future of humanity. The road stretches onward into the moonlit distance, and our journey continues with it. The moon hangs quietly above the countryside, bathing the landscape in a gentle silver light. The day's warmth has faded, leaving behind cool evening air that carries the faint scent of pine, wild thyme, and freshly turned soil. The city behind you has grown peaceful. Most windows glow softly with the light of oil lamps, while distant conversations drift through the calm night before slowly disappearing into silence. You continue your journey. The stone beneath your feet feels smooth from the passage of countless travelers over many generations. Somewhere ahead, the road disappears into the darkness, stretching farther than your eyes can follow. It crosses hills, valleys, forests, rivers, and distant provinces, linking places that once seemed impossibly far apart. It is easy to think of a road as nothing more than a path. But to the Romans, a road was much more. It was a promise that people could travel safely, that food could reach hungry communities, that messages could arrive before it was too late, that families separated by many miles might one day meet again. Picture yourself standing beside a Roman surveyor as dawn breaks many centuries ago. Morning mist still rests across the fields. Dew sparkles on the grass, and birds greet the rising sun with quiet songs. The surveyor studies the landscape before him with calm concentration. In one hand, he carries a measuring tool. Beside him, assistants place wooden markers into the earth. They are not searching for the easiest path. They are searching for the best one. Roman roads became famous for their remarkable straightness, but this did not mean the builders ignored nature. When mountains blocked the way, they sometimes carved passages through rock.
When rivers interrupted the route, they built bridges. When marshes stood ahead, they created raised foundations that kept the roadway dry. Every challenge became another problem, waiting for a thoughtful solution. Imagine watching hundreds of workers begin construction. First, they clear away loose soil until they reach firm ground. Next comes a foundation of large stones. Above that, smaller stones are carefully arranged. Layers of gravel are added. Finally, a tightly fitted paving stones create a durable surface that can withstand years of travel. Each layer serves a purpose. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is placed carelessly. The road is built from the ground upward, beginning with strength hidden beneath the surface. There is a quiet lesson in that. The strongest achievements often depend upon foundations that no one ever sees. As the morning slowly arrives, the completed road begins welcoming its first travelers. A farmer guides a cart filled with vegetables toward the nearest market. Two merchants ride mules carrying fine cloth from distant workshops. A physician travels to visit a patient in another town. Children walk beside their parents, excited to visit relatives they have not seen for many months. Not every traveler is wealthy. Not every journey is grand. Most are simply ordinary people living ordinary lives. The road belongs to all of them. Roman engineers marked distances using stone milestones placed at regular intervals. These carved markers told travelers how far they had come and how much farther remained before reaching the next town or city. Imagine stopping beside one of these milestones. You brush away a little dust and read the carefully carved letters. They offer reassurance you are on the right path. Even in unfamiliar places, you know where you stand. Sometimes the greatest comfort comes from simple certainty. The Roman road network eventually stretched for tens of thousands of kilometers. Some roads connected the heart of Italy to distant provinces. Others linked neighboring towns where farmers, craftsmen, and merchants exchanged goods each week. Together they formed one of the largest transportation systems the ancient world had ever known. But roads carried much more than wagons and travelers. They carried ideas. A teacher journeyed from one city to another, bringing knowledge with him. A skilled architect introduced new building techniques. A physician shared practical medical experience gathered over many years. Religious beliefs spread along these same roads. So did languages, music, stories, and traditions. Knowledge rarely remains still. Like water flowing through an aqueduct, it seeks new places to go. Imagine sitting beneath a roadside tree during the warmth of midday. Nearby stands a small way station where weary travelers may rest before continuing their journey. Horses drink from a stone trough. Bread bakes slowly inside a clay oven. Someone offers fresh olives and cheese to passing visitors. Conversations begin naturally. A merchant from Gaul describes forests farther north. A sailor speaks about the busy ports of the Mediterranean. Another traveler tells stories of deserts far beyond the eastern provinces. Most people listening will never visit these places. Yet through quiet conversation, their understanding of the world becomes a little larger. Roads connect minds as surely as they connect cities. The Roman government also depended upon these carefully maintained routes. Official messengers carried important letters across remarkable distances. Fresh horses waited at relay stations, allowing urgent messages to travel much faster than an ordinary traveler could manage. For governors responsible for distant provinces, reliable communication helped maintain stability throughout the empire. Of course, Roman armies also marched along these roads. History often emphasizes this military purpose, and it was certainly important. Yet armies represented only one part of daily life. Most days the roads belonged to ordinary people, to farmers delivering grain, to families attending weddings, to craftsmen seeking new opportunities, to children seeing another town for the first time. These quieter journeys happened far more often than military campaigns. Imagine meeting an elderly traveler resting beside the road. His sandals are worn from many years of walking. He smiles warmly as you sit nearby. Without hurry, he begins telling stories about places he has visited, mountain villages where winter snow remained long into spring, coastal towns where fishing boats filled the harbors before sunrise, busy cities where fountains flowed day and night, peaceful farms where vineyards stretched across gentle hillsides. He has carried these memories with him for decades. Without roads, many of these experiences would have remained impossible. As afternoon passes into evening, you notice something remarkable. The road itself requires surprisingly little decoration. Its beauty lies in its usefulness. It asks for no admiration. It simply continues forward, stone after stone, mile after mile, generation after generation. Some sections of Roman roads are still visible today.
In certain places, people continue walking upon stones, first laid nearly 2,000 years ago. Rain has fallen upon them countless times. Empires have risen and disappeared. Languages have changed. Yet the road quietly remains.
Modern engineers continue studying Roman construction techniques. Good drainage prevented water from weakening the foundation. Carefully prepared layers distributed weight evenly. Regular maintenance extended the life of each route. These practical ideas remain valuable, even now. Imagine a quiet rain falling across the countryside. Water lands gently upon the road before flowing toward shallow drainage ditches along its edges. Instead of pooling upon the surface, the water quickly moves away. The foundation remains dry. The stones stay firm. Once again, careful planning protects the work for future generations. The Romans understood that nature should be respected rather than ignored. They designed with the landscape, not against it. As twilight deepens, lanterns appear outside roadside inns. Travelers gather around simple meals after long days of walking. Someone shares warm vegetable soup. Another offers fresh bread. Laughter rises softly before fading into peaceful conversation. Outside, the road waits patiently beneath the stars. Tomorrow it will welcome new footsteps, new stories, new hopes. Every person who walks it becomes part of a journey much larger than themselves. Perhaps this is why Roman roads matter even now. They remind us that civilization grows stronger when people remain connected. Trade connects communities. Learning connects generations. Friendship connects families. Ideas connect centuries. A road built from stone can eventually become a bridge between cultures. The Roman Empire itself would one day fade into history. Many cities changed hands, governments rose and fell. Yet countless roads continued guiding travelers long after the empire that built them had disappeared. The builders had unknowingly created something greater than a transportation network. They had created pathways through which civilization itself could continue moving forward. As night grows quieter, you leave the ancient road behind for a little while and look toward the lights of a nearby town. There, another Roman invention quietly shaped everyday life, not through roads, not through water,
but through places where neighbors gathered, relaxed, learned, exercised, and found a sense of community together. Their walls echoed with conversation. Their pools reflected sunlight streaming through high windows. Their warm rooms welcomed rich and poor alike.
Our peaceful journey now leads toward one of the most remarkable public spaces of the ancient world. The first light of another morning arrives quietly. A pale golden glow spreads across the rooftops of the Roman town, gently chasing away the cool blue shadows of the night. The streets are still peaceful. Only a few shopkeepers have opened their doors, and the aroma of freshly baked bread begins to drift through the crisp morning air. Somewhere nearby, a rooster announces the new day, while sparrows flutter between the tiled roofs in search of their first meal. You continue your unhurried walk. The road beneath your feet leads toward one of the busiest places in any Roman city, though at this early hour it remains almost silent. Ahead, broad stone walls rise above the surrounding buildings. Wisps of steam escape into the cool morning air, carrying with them the faint scent of warm water and olive oil. You have arrived at the Roman baths. Today, many people hear the words Roman bath and imagine a place of luxury reserved only for emperors or wealthy nobles. The truth is far more gentle. Public baths were woven into everyday life. While the grandest bath complexes displayed impressive architecture and generous decorations, many ordinary Romans visited baths regularly. The entrance fee was often small enough that much of the population could afford it, and at certain times, generous benefactors or local officials even covered the cost for visitors. The baths were not simply places to wash. They were places where a city quietly came together. Imagine stepping inside. The sounds of the street fade behind thick stone walls. Warm air surrounds you. Sunlight filters through high windows, creating soft beams that dance across polished floors. The gentle echo of flowing water fills the spacious halls. People move without hurry. Some greet old friends. Others sit quietly after a long day's work. Children laugh softly nearby while older visitors enjoy peaceful conversation. There is no sense of urgency. Life seems to slow to a comfortable rhythm. The Romans believed that caring for the body was an important part of caring for everyday life. Modern ideas about hygiene are naturally very different from those of the ancient world.
The Romans did not possess soap as we know it today, nor did they understand germs or bacteria in the scientific sense. Instead, many bathers rubbed olive oil onto their skin before gently scraping away dirt using a curved metal tool known as a strigil. It may sound unfamiliar to us, yet for centuries, it served as an effective way to remove sweat, dust, and oils collected during daily work. Imagine watching an elderly craftsman who has spent the morning carving stone. Fine white dust covers his arms. His hands are rough from years of careful work. As he enters the warm bath, he smiles quietly, relieved to wash away the fatigue of another busy day. Nearby, a young farmer relaxes after hours in the fields beneath the summer sun. Across the room, a merchant rests after returning from a long journey along Rome's remarkable roads. For a little while, their different occupations matter very little. The baths welcome them all. Water has a remarkable way of bringing people together. Picture yourself walking through the different rooms of the bath complex. Each has its own purpose. The changing room is calm as visitors carefully place their clothing in small storage spaces. Beyond it lies a warm chamber where the body slowly adjusts to rising temperatures. Farther ahead, steam gently fills the air inside a hotter room. Finally, many bathers cool themselves in refreshing pools before returning home. The sequence is gradual. Nothing is rushed. Everything encourages comfort rather than haste. Roman engineers made these baths possible through another quiet masterpiece of innovation. Beneath the floors of many larger bathhouses lay an ingenious heating system known today as the hypocaust. Imagine kneeling beside one of the furnaces before sunrise. Workers carefully feed dry wood into a glowing fire. Warm air begins flowing beneath the raised stone floors through a network of empty spaces supported by short brick pillars. The heat spreads evenly beneath the rooms. Some even rises through hollow spaces inside the walls, gently warming the entire building. There are no modern radiators, no electric heaters, only thoughtful engineering working alongside the natural movement of warm air. Visitors walking above may never think about the furnace beneath their feet. Once again, one of Rome's greatest achievements remains largely invisible. Comfort often depends upon hidden systems quietly performing their work. Imagine sitting beside one of the warm pools. Steam rises gently into the air. The scent of olive oil mixes with clean water and smooth stone warmed by the morning fire. Conversations drift softly around you. No one seems eager to leave. A teacher explains a poem to a curious student. Two farmers discuss the coming harvest. An elderly veteran remembers places he visited many years before. Children listen with wide eyes, imagining lands far beyond the horizon. Knowledge travels naturally in such places, not through formal lectures, but through ordinary conversation. The baths became social centers as much as places of cleanliness. Many large bath complexes also included gardens, where visitors could stroll beneath shady trees. Some offered libraries where scrolls could be read in peaceful surroundings. Exercise courtyards welcomed those wishing to strengthen their bodies before bathing. Small shops sold food, oil, and everyday necessities. The baths formed a complete community within the city itself.
Imagine wandering through one of these quiet gardens. Flowers bloom beside carefully maintained paths. A fountain trickles gently nearby. Marble benches invite visitors to rest beneath the shade of cypress trees. For a little while, the concerns of daily life seem distant. Perhaps this peaceful atmosphere explains why Roman baths became such beloved public spaces. They offered more than physical comfort. They offered moments of calm. As the morning slowly arrives, sunlight shifts across the stone walls. More visitors begin entering the complex. Some have traveled from neighboring villages. Others live only a few streets away. Despite their different backgrounds, they share the same warm water, the same peaceful rooms, the same opportunity to pause before returning to their responsibilities. There is a quiet equality here. Water does not ask whether someone is wealthy or poor before offering refreshment. The Romans certainly lived in a society with many inequalities, and not every bathhouse was identical. Some private establishments served wealthy households. Others welcomed the wider public. Women and men often bathed separately, either in different facilities or at different hours depending on the city and the period.
Practices varied across the vast Roman world. History rarely follows one simple pattern. Yet throughout the empire, public bathing remained one of the defining features of urban life. Imagine a physician visiting the baths. He watches carefully as people exercise, wash, and relax. Although he knows nothing of microbes, he observes that cleanliness often accompanies good health. He encourages moderation in eating, regular movement, fresh air, clean water whenever possible. Some of his medical theories will later prove mistaken. Others reflect observations still appreciated today. History often advances through careful experience long before complete scientific understanding arrives. Outside the baths, aqueducts continue delivering fresh water from distant springs. Inside, engineers manage its flow with remarkable skill. Used water eventually leaves through the city's drainage system. Each invention supports another. The aqueduct feeds the bath. The sewer carries away wastewater. The roads deliver building materials. Concrete strengthens the walls. Nothing stands alone. Rome's greatest achievement was not a single invention, and it was the way many inventions worked together, like the pieces of a carefully arranged mosaic. Each part gained greater meaning because of the others. Imagine the bathhouse, late in the afternoon. Golden sunlight enters through high windows, reflecting softly upon the surface of the pools. Visitors begin leaving one by one. A father walks home beside his young son. Two friends continue their conversation as they disappear into nearby streets. An elderly woman pauses outside to enjoy the cool evening breeze before beginning the short walk back to her home. The baths slowly grow quieter. Workers sweep the floors. Fresh wood is prepared for tomorrow's fires.
Water continues flowing gently through the pipes. The building never truly sleeps. It simply waits for another morning. Centuries later, many Roman bathhouses would fall into ruin as the Western Roman Empire declined.
Without steady maintenance, roofs collapsed. Heating systems stopped working. Aqueducts that supplied fresh water were damaged or abandoned in some regions. Nature gradually reclaimed many of these once busy places. Grass pushed between cracked stones. Trees rooted themselves inside forgotten courtyards. Birdsong replaced the echo of conversation. Yet even in ruin, these bathhouses continued teaching future generations. Archaeologists carefully uncovered their foundations. Engineers admired the sophistication of their heating systems. Historians recognized how deeply public infrastructure had shaped everyday Roman life. The lessons remained. Communities thrive when they invest in shared spaces. Health depends upon clean water. Comfort often rests upon unseen engineering. The greatest inventions are sometimes those that quietly improve ordinary days. As evening returns once more, you step outside into the cooling air. Behind you, the great bathhouse glows softly beneath the fading sky. Ahead, another chapter of Rome's remarkable story waits patiently. This time it is not built from water or stone. It is written in words, in carefully copied scrolls, in laws, in education, in ideas that would survive long after the empire itself had faded. For while roads carried travelers and aqueducts carried water, another invisible invention carried something even more enduring: knowledge. And that quiet journey is only beginning. Night has settled gently across the ancient city. The last glow of sunset has faded beyond the distant hills, leaving the sky filled with quiet stars that seem to watch over Rome as they have for countless generations. A cool breeze drifts through the narrow streets, carrying the faint fragrance of olive trees and the lingering aroma of evening meals. Most homes have grown quiet. Oil lamps flicker behind wooden shutters, their warm light spilling softly onto the stone roads before disappearing into the darkness. You continue your peaceful journey. The baths now rest behind you, their pools calm and still until another dawn arrives. Ahead, the streets become quieter. The sounds of merchants and craftsmen have faded, replaced by the gentle footsteps of a few late travelers returning home. Tonight our path leads not toward another remarkable building. Instead, it leads towards something that cannot be held in your hands, something that cannot be carved from stone, something that weighs almost nothing, yet has shaped the lives of billions of people across more than 2,000 years. Knowledge. Imagine entering a modest Roman house where a small oil lamp burns steadily beside a wooden table. The room is simple but welcoming. Shelves hold carefully rolled scrolls made from papyrus and parchment. A father quietly reads aloud while his children listen with patient attention. Outside, the empire stretches across mountains, deserts, forests, and coastlines. Inside, a family gathers around words. The Romans understood that an empire could build roads, aqueducts, bridges, and temples. But ideas required something different. They had to be remembered. They had to be taught. They had to be written down. Without memory, even the strongest civilization would eventually lose its way. Picture yourself beside a Roman scribe. His work is slow
and deliberate. He dips a reed pen into dark ink before carefully copying one line after another onto a fresh scroll. Each letter is formed with remarkable patience. There is no printing press to produce hundreds of copies in a single day. Every page is created by hand. Every sentence demands concentration. A single mistake may require careful correction or even beginning again. It is peaceful work. The only sounds are the soft scratching of the pen and the occasional crackle of the nearby oil lamp. Hours pass quietly, yet each completed scroll carries knowledge safely into the future. Imagine how many generations would eventually benefit from such patient hands. The Romans admired learning, but they also admired organization. This combination became one of their greatest strengths. Many ideas that influenced Roman society had originally come from Greece. Roman scholars studied Greek philosophy, literature, mathematics, and science with deep respect. Rather than replacing earlier knowledge, they often preserved it. This would prove to be one of history's quiet blessings. Imagine an elderly teacher standing before a group of young students.
He does not claim every idea as Roman. Instead, he explains the thoughts of Greek philosophers, Roman historians, poets, and lawmakers. The students ask questions, they discuss, they memorize, they debate. Knowledge grows stronger each time it is shared. The Romans understood that wisdom becomes more valuable when passed from one generation to the next. One of Rome's most enduring contributions was its system of law. Imagine walking into the Roman Forum just after sunrise. The marketplace is slowly coming alive. Merchants arrange their goods. Farmers unload baskets of fruit and grain. Citizens gather beneath large public buildings where officials prepare to hear legal disputes. Not every judgment will be perfect. Roman law evolved over centuries and reflected the limitations of its own society. Women, enslaved people, and non-citizens often possessed fewer rights than Roman male citizens. History should remember these inequalities honestly. Yet within this imperfect system, important legal principles gradually developed. Evidence mattered. Written agreements mattered. Procedures mattered. The law became something larger than the wishes of a single ruler. This idea would travel far beyond ancient Rome. Centuries later, many legal systems across Europe and other parts of the world would study Roman law while developing their own traditions. The details changed. The societies changed. But the belief that laws should be organized, recorded, and applied consistently continued to influence generations. Imagine a merchant making an agreement with another trader. Instead of relying only upon spoken promises, they write down the details. Goods, prices, dates, responsibilities. The written record creates trust, not because people never make mistakes, but because memory alone can sometimes fail. Writing becomes a quiet guardian of fairness. As the night grows deeper, imagine yourself entering a library. Rows of carefully stored scrolls line wooden shelves. Some contain poetry. Others describe history. Medicine, engineering, agriculture, astronomy, law. No single person could read them all in one lifetime, yet together they represent something extraordinary. The accumulated curiosity of countless human beings. Every scroll whispers the same quiet message. Learn from those who came before you. The Romans also understood the importance of education, though opportunities varied depending upon wealth, family circumstances, and location. Many children learned practical skills from parents. Others attended schools where they studied reading, writing, arithmetic, literature, and public speaking. Imagine a young student practicing letters on a wax tablet. His teacher walks quietly between the benches, offering gentle corrections. The lesson may seem small, only a few words, only a few lines. Yet each lesson builds another step toward understanding. Learning rarely arrives all at once. It grows patiently. One day, one page, one conversation at a time. Perhaps this is why Rome's intellectual legacy survived even after the empire itself weakened. Stone buildings can collapse, roads may crack. Aqueducts can fall into disrepair, but an idea copied into many books becomes surprisingly difficult to erase. Imagine a monastery many centuries after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Outside, Europe has changed dramatically. Kingdoms have risen where Roman provinces once stood. Languages continue evolving. Yet inside the quiet walls of the monastery, monks patiently copy ancient texts by hand. Among them are works written by Roman authors, histories, legal writings, poetry, philosophy, technical knowledge. Without realizing it, these patient scribes are carrying voices from the ancient world into the future. Their work is quiet, almost invisible. Yet civilization remembers because they refuse to let knowledge disappear. As the morning slowly arrives, imagine sunlight entering that peaceful room. Dust floats gently through the golden beams. Another page is completed, another book survives, another bridge between centuries grows stronger. The Renaissance, many hundreds of years later, would rediscover and celebrate much of this preserved knowledge. Architects studied Roman buildings. Lawyers examined Roman legal texts. Scholars translated ancient literature. Engineers admired Roman construction. The past quietly helped shape the future. Even today, traces of Rome remain woven into everyday life. Many languages borrow words from Latin. Scientific names for plants and animals often use Latin. Courtrooms reflect legal traditions influenced by Roman thought. Government buildings display architectural ideas first explored in antiquity. Universities preserve habits of careful study that reach back through many generations. The Romans could never have imagined airplanes, satellites, computers, or the internet. Yet they understood something timeless. Knowledge becomes humanity's greatest inheritance. Imagine standing once more upon a quiet Roman road. Behind you lie the aqueducts carrying fresh water across valleys, the concrete buildings standing firm through centuries, the hidden sewers protecting public health, the roads connecting distant communities, the warm baths welcoming neighbors together. Now another invisible road stretches before you. It is made not of stone, but of ideas, Every generation walks upon it. Every teacher adds another stone. Every student continues the journey. This may be Rome's greatest invention of all. Not a single object, not one remarkable machine, but a way of preserving useful knowledge so that each generation could begin a little farther ahead than the one before. The Romans inherited wisdom from earlier civilizations. They improved much of it. They organized it. They spread it across a vast world. Then, despite the fall of their empire, much of that knowledge continued traveling through history. Perhaps that is how humanity truly moves forward, not by beginning again each century, but by remembering. As dawn brightens the eastern sky, birds begin singing among the rooftops once more. The city slowly awakens. Fresh water still flows through ancient channels in some places. Old roads still guide modern footsteps. Concrete structures still stand beneath the same sun that warmed them 2,000 years ago. The story of Rome has never been only about emperors or battles. It has always been about ordinary people quietly solving ordinary problems in ways that would help extraordinary numbers of future generations. Our journey is almost complete. Only one final chapter remains. There we will step back and look at everything we have discovered together, from mountain springs to hidden sewers, from stone roads to carefully copied books, and ask one peaceful question. What was the true invention that helped save humanity? The answer is larger than any single monument, and it waits quietly in the morning light. The morning arrives with remarkable gentleness. A thin veil of mist rests across the countryside, softening the outlines of distant hills. Dew clings to blades of grass that shimmer as the first rays of sunlight reach the earth. Somewhere nearby, a shepherd quietly opens the gate to a pasture, while birds greet the new day with calm and familiar songs. The world seems unhurried, as though history itself has paused for a peaceful breath. You continue your walk along the ancient road. Behind you lie the wonders you have already discovered. The aqueducts still seem to whisper with the sound of flowing water. The hidden sewers remind you that civilization depends upon unseen care. Roman concrete stands silently against the passing centuries, while the roads stretch endlessly toward places both familiar and unknown. Libraries, schools, and carefully copied scrolls have shown that ideas can outlive even the greatest empires. Now it is time to step back. Rather than looking at one invention, we will look at all of them together. For perhaps the greatest gift ancient Rome offered humanity was never a single object. It was a way of thinking. Imagine standing upon a gentle hill overlooking a Roman town just after sunrise. From this quiet place, nearly every part of the city becomes visible. A fountain sparkles where fresh water enters the marketplace. Farmers guide wagons along paved roads toward the city gates. Smoke rises gently from bakeries preparing the day's first loaves. Children hurry toward their lessons. Builders repair a bridge that has served travelers for generations. Everything appears connected. Nothing exists entirely on its own. The fountain depends upon the aqueduct. The aqueduct depends upon careful surveying. The roads bring stone from distant quarries. Concrete strengthens the reservoirs. The drains protect the streets. The laws organize the workers. The written records preserve the knowledge. One invention quietly supports another. The Romans understood something that every successful civilization eventually learns. Great achievements rarely happen alone. Imagine watching a group of craftsmen build a new public fountain.
A mason shapes blocks of stone with careful hands. A carpenter prepares wooden scaffolding. A blacksmith repairs iron tools. Engineers check measurements. Laborers carry heavy materials. Nearby cooks prepare simple meals for the workers.
Even the person delivering fresh bread each morning becomes part of the project. No single individual builds the fountain. Many people contribute. Civilization itself is much the same. Every generation quietly adds another stone.
As the morning slowly grows brighter, picture a young Roman child watching these workers. Perhaps she asks her father how water travels across mountains. Perhaps he smiles and explains gravity in simple words, not using modern scientific language, but speaking from experience. Water always seeks lower ground. If people guide it carefully, it can travel astonishing distances. The child nods thoughtfully. Years later, she may teach the same lesson to someone else. Knowledge continues moving, much like the water itself.
Slowly, steadily, without ever truly stopping. This may be the deepest lesson left behind by ancient Rome. Useful knowledge becomes stronger when shared. The Romans borrowed ideas from many cultures. They learned from the Greeks, from the Etruscans, from Egyptians, from countless local traditions across their growing world. Rather than seeing learning as weakness, they often treated it as wisdom. If another culture possessed a better method, practical Romans frequently adapted it. Imagine a Roman engineer arriving in a distant province. He studies local building materials. He observes regional techniques. Instead of rejecting unfamiliar ideas, he asks questions. Could this improve our bridges? Would this strengthen our walls? Can this local stone serve better than imported marble? Quiet curiosity becomes another Roman tool. Even today, progress often begins with the simple willingness to learn from others. As you continue your peaceful walk, the town gradually awakens. Merchants open their shops. Fresh vegetables fill woven baskets. Potters display newly fired jars. A physician greets familiar neighbors while beginning his morning rounds. None of these ordinary people think of themselves as changing history. Yet together they create the living heartbeat of civilization. History is often told through emperors, battles, conquests, political struggles. Those events certainly mattered, but they were not the whole story. Most Romans never commanded armies.
Most never spoke before the Senate. Most simply lived ordinary lives. They raised children, shared meals, repaired homes, worked in fields, taught apprentices, collected water, walked familiar roads, and in doing so, they quietly sustained one of history's greatest civilizations. Imagine entering a modest bakery before sunrise. The baker has already been awake for hours. He kneads dough while warm light from the oven fills the room.
Outside, someone waits patiently for the first fresh loaf of the day. The baker depends upon grain delivered along Roman roads, clean water from nearby fountains, stable laws protecting trade, well-built ovens constructed with durable materials. His simple loaf of bread is possible because countless unseen systems quietly work together. The same remains true today. Every ordinary day rests upon extraordinary networks. Perhaps that is why Rome's story still feels familiar. The details have changed: the clothing, the language, the tools, the buildings. Yet people continue depending upon clean water, reliable transportation, durable construction, organized laws, education, and cooperation. Human needs remain surprisingly constant. Imagine that you could speak with an elderly Roman sitting beside a public fountain. His hair has turned silver after many decades. He has witnessed good harvests and poor ones, peaceful years and uncertain times. He listens quietly as you describe the modern world. Tall buildings reaching into the clouds. Vehicles moving faster than horses could ever run. Machines carrying voices across oceans. People traveling through the sky. He would surely find these wonders astonishing. After listening carefully, he might smile gently. Then he might ask only a few simple questions. Do your cities still need clean water? Do your people still travel upon roads? Do your builders still seek stronger materials? Do your children still learn from books? Do your communities still depend upon laws? You would answer yes. The tools have changed, the needs have not. That is the quiet thread connecting our world to his. As afternoon sunlight warms the stones beneath your feet, you pause beside the remains of an ancient aqueduct. Grass grows between weathered blocks. Wildflowers bloom where workers once stood. Birds nest within arches that have watched nearly 2,000 springs arrive and departed. Time has changed many things, yet the structure still speaks, not through words, through endurance. It reminds us that thoughtful work can outlive its creators. Centuries after Rome's political power faded, travelers continued crossing Roman bridges. Farmers continued using Roman roads. Builders studied Roman architecture. Scholars copied Roman books. Lawmakers examined Roman legal ideas. The empire disappeared. Its knowledge continued walking forward. Imagine countless generations passing before your eyes. Parents teaching children. Teachers guiding students. Builders training apprentices. Engineers solving new problems with old wisdom. Every generation receives an inheritance. Every generation adds something of its own, then quietly passes both to those who follow. Perhaps civilization is simply that. One long conversation, stretching across thousands of years. No single voice speaks alone. As evening begins approaching once more, the countryside grows peaceful. Golden light settles gently across fields where farmers finish their day's work. The road ahead glows warmly beneath the lowering sun. You realize that the true invention we have been searching for cannot be held in your hands. It cannot be displayed inside a museum case. It cannot be captured by a single photograph. It lives wherever people choose to build thoughtfully, to preserve knowledge, to improve daily life, to solve problems, not only for themselves, but for generations they will never meet. That spirit quietly began long before Rome. The Romans strengthened it, organized it, expanded it, and passed much of it onward. The greatest invention was never only the aqueduct or concrete or roads or sewers or baths or law. It was the belief that human knowledge, carefully preserved and generously shared, could make tomorrow safer than today. The gentle breeze returns once again, carrying with it the distant sound of flowing water. The same sound that welcomed us at the beginning of this journey. The circle is almost complete. Only one final quiet walk remains before our story comes to its peaceful end. There, beneath the evening sky, we will remember not the power of an empire, but the quiet wisdom of the ordinary people whose patient work continues to serve humanity even now. The evening returns with the same quiet grace that has guided us throughout this journey. The sky is painted with gentle shades of gold, rose, and deep blue as the sun slowly slips behind the distant hills. A cool breeze moves across the countryside, carrying the familiar scent of olive trees, fresh earth, and the faint sweetness of wild flowers growing beside the ancient road. Birds make their final flights before settling into the branches for the night. You continue walking. The road beneath your feet has accompanied you through many stories. It has led you to mountain springs, across magnificent bridges, beneath hidden tunnels, into peaceful bathhouses, and beside shelves of carefully copied scrolls. Now the journey is no longer about discovering something new. It is about understanding what all these discoveries truly meant. Imagine stopping on a small stone bridge that spans a quiet stream. The water below flows gently around smooth rocks before continuing toward a distant river. It never rushes, it never pauses. It simply keeps moving forward. History often behaves in much the same way. No civilization begins entirely from nothing. Each inherits ideas from those who came before. Each adds something of its own. Each leaves quiet gifts for generations yet to come. Ancient Rome was no exception. The Romans admired many cultures that came before them. They borrowed ideas from the Greeks, who had explored philosophy, mathematics, medicine, and architecture. They learned practical engineering from the Etruscans. They traded with Egypt and absorbed knowledge from many other peoples across the Mediterranean. Rome became great, not because it claimed to know everything. It became great because it was willing to learn. Picture yourself inside a busy Roman workshop. A young apprentice shapes a stone while his master watches patiently. The older craftsman does not expect perfection on the first attempt. Instead, he offers gentle advice. He demonstrates, he encourages, then he allows the apprentice to try again. Knowledge grows through patience, rarely through haste. That simple relationship between teacher and student has existed for thousands of years. It continues today in classrooms, workshops, laboratories, and homes across the world. Imagine a mother teaching her daughter how to bake bread. A
a grandfather showing his grandson how to repair a wooden cart, a physician explaining careful observation to a new student, an engineer sharing the secrets of measuring land. These quiet moments rarely appear in history books, yet they are among history's most powerful forces. Civilization survives because ordinary people continue teaching one another. As twilight deepens, you arrive at the edge of a Roman town. Smoke rises gently from chimneys. Families gather for their evening meals. Simple conversations fill modest homes. Laughter drifts softly through open windows. These people do not know that historians will one day study their civilization. They simply live, work, love, learn, hope. Their ordinary lives become the foundation upon which extraordinary history is built. Many centuries after the Western Roman Empire came to an end, Europe entered a period of profound change. Cities became smaller in many regions. Long-distance trade declined in some areas. Certain Roman roads and aqueducts fell into disrepair without the steady maintenance they required. Nature slowly reclaimed many magnificent structures. Grass grew between paving stones. Trees rooted themselves in abandoned courtyards. Birds nested where crowds had once gathered. To some observers, it may have seemed that Rome had disappeared forever. Appearances can be misleading. Imagine a quiet monastery nestled among green hills several centuries later. Morning sunlight shines through narrow windows onto rows of wooden desks. Monks sit silently, copying ancient manuscripts by hand. Each careful letter preserves a fragment of the past. Some scrolls contain Roman history. Others preserve works by Greek philosophers that Roman scholars had valued. Still others describe medicine, agriculture, engineering, or law. Outside, kingdoms rise and fall. Inside, knowledge waits patiently. Without these careful copies, much of the ancient world's wisdom might have been lost forever. There is something deeply comforting about this image. Even during uncertain times, someone always chooses to remember. As the morning slowly arrives, imagine one young monk pausing for a moment before continuing his work. He cannot know that centuries later, students, scientists, architects, and historians will benefit from the words he carefully preserves. He writes simply because he believes the knowledge matters. Sometimes the greatest gifts are offered without expecting recognition. As Europe gradually changed, Roman ideas quietly returned in new forms. Builders admired surviving bridges and domes. Lawmakers studied ancient legal principles. Scholars translated forgotten texts. Artists looked toward classical sculpture for inspiration. This period, known as the Renaissance, did not copy Rome exactly, and instead it entered into a conversation with the past. Old ideas met new questions. Together they created fresh possibilities. History often moves forward in this gentle way, not by abandoning everything that came before, but by building thoughtfully upon it. Imagine walking through a modern city. Tall buildings rise above busy streets, clean water flows through hidden pipes, bridges span wide rivers, hospitals care for the sick, schools welcome children each morning, libraries preserve knowledge, courthouses uphold the law. The details differ greatly from ancient Rome. Steel has replaced much of the stone. Electric lights have replaced oil lamps. Digital screens now stand where scrolls once rested. Yet beneath these modern changes, familiar principles remain. Communities still depend upon shared infrastructure. Learning still shapes the future. Careful planning still protects ordinary lives. The Romans would recognize these ideas, even if they marveled at the technology. Imagine meeting one of those ancient engineers again. This time, instead of showing him a Roman aqueduct, you lead him through a modern water treatment plant. He watches enormous machines quietly cleaning water before it enters a city's pipes. He asks thoughtful questions. You explain filtration, pumps, laboratory testing. He listens with genuine curiosity. Then perhaps he smiles. The methods are different. The purpose is the same. To bring safe water to people. Across 2,000 years, both of you are solving the same human problem. That quiet continuity connects the ancient world with our own. As evening settles once more, you sit beside the remains of an old Roman milestone. The carved letters have faded with time. Rain has softened their edges. Lichen covers parts of the stone, yet it still stands where travelers once paused to measure their journey. Perhaps history offers us similar milestones. Each civilization marks another step along humanity's long road. Egypt, Greece, Rome, many others. Each contributes something valuable. None completes the journey alone. The road continues because every generation keeps walking. The stars begin appearing one by one above the peaceful landscape. The same stars watched Roman farmers harvesting wheat, Roman children learning their first letters, Roman engineers measuring hillsides, Roman builders placing stones into fresh concrete, Roman scribes patiently copying books. They watch us now as well. The centuries between us suddenly feel a little smaller. You realize that the true strength of Rome was never simply its armies or its emperors. Those belonged to their own time. Its greatest strength was its determination to organize knowledge, improve practical solutions, and leave behind systems that ordinary people could depend upon. That quiet determination still echoes through our own lives. Every glass of clean water, every carefully built bridge, every classroom, every library, every law recorded in writing. Every engineer measuring a new foundation, every child learning from a teacher. These are all part of a story that stretches farther than any empire. The breeze grows cooler as night deepens. Your long walk is nearly complete. Ahead, beyond the gentle curve of the ancient road, waits one final sunrise. There we will gather together every quiet lesson we have discovered and gently reflect on why the greatest invention of ancient Rome was never merely a structure of stone, but a way of improving the human condition through shared knowledge, thoughtful engineering, and patient care for generations yet unborn. The road continues, and with the coming dawn, so will our final chapter. The first light of dawn slowly rises over the ancient hills. A soft golden glow spreads across the countryside, touching the tops of cypress trees before gently reaching the quiet valleys below. The morning air is cool and fresh. Tiny drops of dew rest upon the grass, shining like countless small jewels in the early sunlight. Somewhere in the distance, a shepherd opens a wooden gate, allowing his flock to wander peacefully across the hillside. Birds greet the new day with gentle songs, just as they did thousands of years ago. You stand upon the same ancient road where our journey first began. The stones beneath your feet are worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. Merchants once walked here, farmers walked here, children hurried home along this path. Travelers from distant lands carried stories, goods, and ideas across these very stones. Now, after our long and peaceful journey through ancient Rome, you pause for one final moment. The world around you feels quiet, almost timeless. Imagine turning slowly to look behind you. In your mind, every place we have visited begins to appear once again. Far away among the hills, clear mountain springs continue feeding the aqueducts. Fresh water still glides silently through carefully measured channels, guided only by gravity and human patience. Elsewhere, mighty bridges stretch across rivers that once divided communities. Strong concrete walls stand against rain, wind, and the passing centuries. Hidden beneath the streets, quiet drainage tunnels continue reminding us that healthy cities depend upon unseen care. Stone roads reach toward distant horizons, carrying not only travelers, but also friendship, or trade, and understanding. Peaceful bathhouses echo with conversations that once brought neighbors together. Libraries preserve voices from the past, while teachers patiently guide young minds toward tomorrow. Every one of these achievements appears different, yet they all share something important. None was built for a single day. None was created only to impress. Each existed to improve ordinary life. Perhaps that was Rome's greatest strength. Imagine sitting beside an elderly Roman engineer as the morning sun slowly warms the stones around you. His hands are rough from decades of careful work. He has spent years measuring hillsides, repairing channels, inspecting bridges, and teaching younger builders. You ask him a simple question. What is the greatest invention Rome ever created? He does not answer immediately. Instead, he watches the water flowing quietly beneath a nearby bridge. He listens to the distant sounds of people beginning another ordinary day. Finally, he smiles. Perhaps he would not name the aqueduct, nor the roads, nor the concrete, nor the sewers. Instead, he might gently say, "We learned to build for people we would never meet." There is profound wisdom in those few words. Every aqueduct carried water for children not yet born. Every bridge welcomed travelers whose names its builders would never know. Every law hoped to bring order long after its authors had passed away. Every book invited future generations to learn something new. Rome's greatest invention was not simply engineering. It was long-term thinking. It was the belief that today's work could become tomorrow's foundation.
That idea quietly changed history. Imagine a child living in a small Roman town nearly 2,000 years ago. She wakes before sunrise and walks with her mother to the public fountain. Fresh water pours steadily from carved stone. To her, it seems perfectly ordinary. She cannot imagine that somewhere beyond the hills, countless workers measured land with extraordinary precision to bring this water safely to her neighborhood. She simply drinks. She smiles. She begins another day. The greatest inventions often become invisible because they work so well. The same remains true today. When you turn on a tap, you rarely think about reservoirs, engineers, treatment plants, and pipelines. When you cross a bridge, you trust that someone carefully designed it. When you visit a hospital, you expect clean water and safe buildings. When you open a book or read a lesson on a screen, you participate in a tradition of preserving knowledge that stretches back through countless generations. Civilization quietly surrounds us. Most days we hardly notice it. Imagine watching the centuries pass before your eyes. The Roman Empire gradually changes. Emperors come and go. Some rule wisely, others do not. Borders expand, then slowly begin to shrink. The Western Roman Empire eventually fades from history. Cities change, roads weather, some aqueducts fall silent. For a moment it may seem as though Rome's story has ended. Yet the morning sun continues rising. Farmers continue planting crops. Teachers continue teaching. Builders continue measuring foundations. Parents continue telling stories to their children. Knowledge continues traveling from one generation to the next. The empire disappears. Its ideas remain. Perhaps that is the quiet difference between power and wisdom. Power often belongs to a particular moment. Wisdom belongs to every generation willing to receive it. Imagine Europe many centuries later. Architects study the Pantheon with quiet admiration. Engineers examine surviving aqueducts. Lawyers read ancient legal writings. Scientists observe Roman concrete, still standing after nearly 2,000 years. Historians carefully uncover forgotten streets, buried beneath the earth. Each discovery reminds humanity that the past still has something to teach. Not because the Romans were perfect. They were not. Their society contained deep inequalities. Slavery existed throughout much of Roman history. Political struggles sometimes led to violence. Many people enjoyed freedoms that others did not. History asks us to remember these truths honestly. A civilization should never be viewed as flawless simply because it achieved remarkable things. The Romans were human. Like every civilization, they possessed both wisdom and weakness. Perhaps this honesty makes their accomplishments even more meaningful. Progress does not require perfection. It requires people willing to improve the world they inherit. As the morning slowly grows brighter, imagine builders from every age gathering together upon this ancient road. An Egyptian stonemason, a Greek philosopher, a Roman engineer, a medieval monk copying books, a Renaissance architect, a modern civil engineer, a scientist studying stronger building materials, a teacher standing before a classroom. Though separated by thousands of years,
They all share something quietly beautiful. Each accepts knowledge from those who came before. Each adds something of their own. Each leaves a gift for someone they will never meet.
That is how civilization moves forward. Not through one brilliant moment, but through countless acts of quiet cooperation. The breeze gently moves through the trees once again. You notice the same clear stream flowing beside the road. The water never asks where it began. It simply continues its journey. Generation after generation, century after century. Human knowledge flows in much the same way. It begins somewhere. It gathers strength from many sources. It nourishes countless lives. Then it continues onward. Long after individual names have been forgotten. Perhaps this is why the story of ancient Rome still matters. Not because we wish to recreate the empire, not because every Roman idea was correct, but because Rome reminds us that thoughtful engineering, careful planning, shared learning, and patient maintenance can improve ordinary human life in extraordinary ways. The greatest civilizations are remembered not only for what they conquered, they are remembered for what they contributed. Rome contributed roads that connected communities, aqueducts that carried life-giving water, concrete that challenged the limits of architecture, public spaces that strengthened communities, legal traditions that influenced future societies, schools that valued learning, books that preserved memory. Above all, Rome demonstrated that practical knowledge becomes one of humanity's greatest treasures when it is shared generously and preserved carefully. The sun now stands higher above the horizon. The mist has disappeared. The ancient road stretches ahead, disappearing into the bright distance. Our walk together has reached its end. Yet the road itself continues. Others will walk it tomorrow, just as others walked it yesterday. History never truly ends. It simply invites another traveler to continue the journey. As you take one final look across the peaceful landscape, the quiet sounds of flowing water, distant bird song, and the gentle morning breeze seem to come together in perfect harmony. The stones remain, the ideas remain, the lessons remain. And perhaps that is the true invention that helped save humanity. Not one machine, not one building, not one emperor, but the enduring belief that knowledge, shared with care and used for the common good, can outlive every empire and continue making the world a safer, healthier, and more connected place for generations yet to come. The ancient road fades into the morning light, and somewhere beyond the horizon, another chapter of human history quietly begins.